What's up, Michelle? How are you? What's going on?
Happy to have you here in my home.
Yes, thank you very much. We are sitting here in the heart of everything cool and hip in Williamsburg. Your home. You've been moving around physically, but also you moved apartments. Last time we hung out at your apartment was like 2 years ago.
More
than 2 years ago?
Yeah. Because 2 years ago I was nomad, so I had no apartment, and we've been here for over. So maybe like 3 years ago.
3 years ago, and you were doing the you had this project. You were like writing to my younger self.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was very cool. I always found that you always had projects going on. I mean, you have like your big like Hello Fears brand, which we'll get into shortly, but like you always had like these like little like nuances or these like shoot offs of like the main brand, like little projects, and some of them hit off, some of them not, but you always kept on like trying new things to like get the.
And it was not always like this. For my entire life, I never had personal projects.
Yeah.
It was when I moved to New York and I did the first one that we will talk about now. After that, it was like, this is it. Yeah. Project after project after project. That's what fulfills your soul, I guess.
For sure. I mean, you're known as the fear girl. Yeah. But you're anything but when you meet somebody in person. I mean, you meet in person, you're confident. You're eye contact's on point. Your presence is very felt and it's comfortable to be around you. But was that always like that growing up? Do you remember your earliest fear?
You mean like when I was very little?
What was your first fear?
So it's hard to tell, but I do remember one of my first fears when I was very little, which was to walk down the aisle. Whenever I was invited to be the flower girl at weddings, like that. And I know now that I've always had this fear of getting lost, and it started when I was very little. I remember I had to walk by myself, in front of the bride.
It's huge, a lot of pressure.
But by myself, and so my fear was that I was not going to find my mom or my dad at the end. Like I was going to get lost, literally, forever.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow, man, that's intense. Then did you, as you grew older and you started defining, how did your fears? Were you always in touch with yourself so well that you were able to identify like this is me acting out of fear, or were you just reacting to a point in life that like woke you up and like, oh my gosh, I can't keep on living like this anymore?
Well, I feel like our fears are so personal, like our comfort zone is so personal. It is shaped by our experiences and even our parents' experiences and their parents' experiences. So you grow up and you start collecting fears that are yours and some that are not yours. You include them in your life. And then it's up to you to realize when your fears are limiting your opportunities. And that's what happened to me. So I lived with my fears comfortably for about 26 years. And then I moved to New York. And that's when things started to change. New York is the trigger, the change, all of that.
That's crazy. That's huge. I mean, New York City comes up in so many different people's stories, like it's a pivotal time. And it's really cool to hear that within you. I actually just released a video where I'm like walking around the city I shot with my boy Kevin Matosim, really talented cinematographer, and we just capture like the vibrancy of the city and like talking about how much the city inspires me. And there's so much that the city it changes lives, it builds people up, it could tear people down. There's a lot of, and so it's cool to see that this was a big pivotal time for you and in your story. But before we move into that, I know you touched base on like how much fear and we carry, not just necessarily from ourselves, from our own personal experiences, but that's put on us from our childhood, from parents, grandparents. And so did you feel that growing up? I know in your family, there are people who survived the Holocaust, who went through World War II. Was it conscious that you felt that they were always in fear, or was it something that they always acted upon? They would say, okay, come back at a certain time. Like, how did that play out in your actual life?
So I think in my actual life, it was more a matter of expecting the worst always, because it can happen, you know? And so I learned about the Holocaust from a young age. And I knew that was a possibility, that people can just come to your house and, claim it and then take you somewhere else, break you apart from your family. You're like so vulnerable. So I grew up with that fear of this happening again and me being part of it. So because it happened to literally my grandparents, so they had to survive all of that. Then they moved to Venezuela. Then they had my mom and they raised her So she understands that the worst can happen. So that's how I was raised, with a lot of, don't do this because this can happen. Don't do this because this can happen. And then one day I was like, wait, what if the best happens? What if things go right? Wow. And I think that I've always been a very positive person, very optimistic. And I think it was a reaction to my family, to hearing all these negative outcomes that are a possibility. And I'm like, what if the positive outcome is also a possibility?
Wow. That's a change of like, this a paradigm shift from like worrying. Cause like, I grew up, having a Jewish mother. There's always a lot of that, like, or grandmother's always like, oh, you're going to leave, you have to bring an umbrella, a winter coat, and like, and a sled because you never know it's going to snow or rain. Like, you're always expecting what may not, like, the slightest chance, but you have to always be ready for it.
Right.
So I think I relate to you in that sense, that you have, like, growing up in that type of environment, which only stems from love. But how I translated it growing up as a kid, it could be sometimes even traumatic in a way, even though that's how, it's generational and it's passed upon, but like it could come translated in fear or holding me down. And there are times in my own like career and life where I realized like, gosh, I know my parents wanted me to like, settle down. I'm sure this is also a lot of people connected with this, like, going to college or going through a mainstream process of things, because that's the safer option. That's, okay, you could guarantee to get X amount of dollars and you can support your family. But A, there's really no guarantees, and B, it stifles the creative, or the person's personality to go out and explore and be them true self.
What? And another really interesting thing about what you're saying is that our family, because of love, they want to guide us. They want to take us in a certain path. And I went through that path. I literally did everything that I was expected to do. I went to college. I graduated. I found a really good job. I got married. I was doing everything I was expected to, checking all the boxes. And then what I realized one day is that, because I started having like very mild panic attacks, that I was like, that was a wake-up call for me, like something's wrong. And what I realized is that, because I started questioning, like, wait, I did everything I was supposed to do. Why am I not in the top of the world, like so happy every single day of my life? Right. Why am I still waiting for something else to come for me to be happy? Because then I have kids. And then what if that doesn't bring me the fulfillment that I'm looking for? And then what else? Buying a house, having grandkids, and dying. Like what else is there?
Ooh, man, I just felt that. That's intense. Yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah. So I started going to therapy at that point, and I had this realization that when we are like guided to do all these things and it promises lifelong happiness, what it actually gives us is comfort, not happiness. Happiness comes from checking your own boxes, from doing the things that will only fulfill your soul. So it doesn't come from just finding a job that pays you well or finding a person that will marry you, but it's finding the right person. It's finding a job, even if it gives you, not the money you were expecting, but the satisfaction. And that is what gives you the happiness that you're looking for. So it's all about stop checking society's boxes and what everybody else expects from you and start checking your own. And I started building my own boxes right there.
Wow, major. Was this a pivotal time when you mentioned that you were, you starting to have some panic attacks? Your body was telling you, like, or your mind, your emotion was telling you, hey, like, slow down. There's something that's not right here. Therapy, taking care of yourself. Was this pre or post the 100 Days of Fear project? Did that help you? Did therapy or that self-work help you open your mind to say, hey, let me try to take on something new and creative?
So it was definitely before. So it was before moving to New York. Actually, going to therapy is what made me realize that I've been always wanting to live in New York, and I put that aside because I was, following the path that I was expected to follow. And so when my therapist brought up New York, and she's like, wait, you mentioned New York. Why are you not even considering that? I'm like, no, that's too expensive. No, that's, I should start a family already. I shouldn't go to New York. And she started breaking down all those mental barriers for me and making me realize that I was 23 years old at the time.
Wow. Wow.
And that I have my entire life in front of me, and that I can own my own life. Like, I can take ownership of it if I decide to do it, if I have the courage. Yeah. And so that's when I was like, whoa, I should totally move to New York. And so that's what triggered all of this. And in New York is where I started the 100 Days Without Fear project.
Wow, major. I find, I want to segue into that nicely and easily. Did you find that fear, when you're like 23 years old, you're being so hard on yourself. So it's, from my listening, right? Because you're doing all this stuff and you're doing it right. And like, did you feel like you had also like a fear of disappointment, like a fear of like disappointing your parents or grandparents in the way they thought, you should be living your life or what, would make them happy? Did you feel like that sort of held you back from like living your truth?
I think that is inevitable. And I love something that my therapist said. She said, growing up means disappointing people. Like adulting. She literally said that adulting means disappointing people because you start making choices for yourself. And it's unavoidable. Like you will disappoint people along the way, but that is a choice you have to make for yourself if you want to be happy. And so yes, moving to New York was a big disappointment for the entire family, most of my husband's family, because they live in Miami where we were living before. So it was like weird. Wait, why are you leaving? You're supposed to start a family, we're all here. We're waiting for it. Right. You already got married 2, 3, 4 years ago. What do you mean you're moving to New York? When are you coming back? And so I had to look for an expiration date for my New York adventure even before I started it.
Wow.
So I started telling everybody, I'll come back in 2 years. Yeah, I'll be back in 1 year to do my master's in branding, because that's why I moved to New York, to do a master program, and 1 year to enjoy New York. And then we'll be back. Don't worry, we'll have kids in 2 years. Like
the plan's still on course. We're just diverting, but we're still on the plan.
Right. People need a plan. Yeah. And that puts a lot of pressure on ourselves. And one day I was like, you know what? I'll start answering people, I don't know. And that's it. I'll just say that whenever they ask me, when are you coming back? I don't know. Wow. That's it.
And
because I don't.
People don't know what to do with that. They don't know how do you translate that into like something like, in reality? What do you mean you don't know? We have to know. We have to plan. We have to.
Yeah. And you don't. It's a matter of doing what feels good for you in the moment.
Yeah, you do mention a lot. Quite often about the idea with like when it comes to like having children and building a family, and coming from like a Jewish home, and anybody from any cultural background I'm sure could relate to that kind of pressure. I myself are single, so I don't and male, so I can't really relate to the pressure of having children per se, but building a relationship and taking certain steps that people expect of. But it seems like you really done the work, and you've come quite comfortable with the idea of like being quote unquote older, married, and yet not having children. Have you worked through it that you don't get offended or attacked? It's such a personal thing when people ask you like, hey, when you're having kids, or like, why didn't you have kids yet? And how do you process that? How do you approach that when people do approach you in that manner? Yeah,
so that's really hard, and it's a huge topic that we discuss all the time. And for the longest time, I was not even feeling the need to have a kid, right? So I'm like, why would I even consider it? And when I turned 30 a year and a half ago, I freaked out because I was like, I'm 30 and I still don't have a kid, and all my friends are in their second baby, and and so we made the decision, let's have a baby. So when I turned 30, and then I started getting like so pissed at everything, like I was in a bad mood all day long. And that's when I was like, okay, if this decision is like bringing the worst out of me, why am I doing it? Like, why, why go that way?
That's so, totally. I just turned 30, January 19th, last week, a week ago. And like, hashtag adulting, like coming up to 30, I was feeling all this angst and anxiety, and I was getting sad. And I was like, what is happening? And I also I was bringing this to my therapist, just like talking this out. And it was just like all this, again, like another quote unquote societal milestone. And being, I have most of my friends. I have a fear of making new friends. I literally have to make new friends, because all my friends, I'm really starting to realize, and we're so close in a special place in my heart, and we hang out once in a while, but we're in different places, right? They have like 3 and 4 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, they have 3 and 4 kids, and like they're hitting like certain milestones within that, like turning, 3 and having their haircut, or like, I have some friends like, wow, I have a friend that got married at 19. Like his kids, like he was a kid who's turning bar mitzvah soon. I don't know. Like,
wow,
it's insane.
It's the same. I have my
really?
best friend from college, best friend. Her older is almost doing bar mitzvah, and she has 4, and we don't have much in common, sadly, at this point. Mm-hmm. And yes, it is important to make new friends that are more aligned with your current lifestyle and your current values.
Yes, right. And so I've realized, like, I was trying to hold on for so long, and I started to feel lonely because I had all these friends, but I wasn't able to hang out with them anymore, and we didn't have much in common to a certain extent. And then I don't have anybody else to lean on. I'm professional, but like real friendships. So that was a new challenge for me to realize that and to say, hey, I have to go out there and become vulnerable and start this process again in my late 20s and start making new friends.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important what you're saying, because those are the cultural fears. So in my talks, I break fear apart in 3 ways. So universal, cultural, and personal fear. So the universal fears, we're born with them, and everybody, doesn't matter how old you are or where you're from, you are probably afraid of a tarantula, needles, pain, danger.
Pain. Yeah.
Those are very universal, and it's okay to have those fears because those keep us safe and alive. So we don't want to fight against those,
right,
unless they're like limiting your day to day. But if not, those are okay to have. But then as we grow, we have cultural fears, and cultural fears are determined the way that we present ourselves in front of others and the choices that we make. And if we're not careful and we want to fit in, that will completely kill our authenticity. So if I would have want to fit in because I'm 30 and I want to be like the rest, then my authenticity of living my best life and waiting a little bit more before having kids and all of that would have been gone. I would have listened to that other need, the need to fit in.
Right. That's so true. I mean, there is that element of growing up and saying, hearing from older generation parents or mentors or teachers saying like, this is how it's done, or this is, you're young now, you don't know, but you have to trust us. And how does one navigate that, between, understanding one's place and like, yeah, I'm maybe young in this world and maybe these fears are keeping me safe. Maybe these are maybe this is the way of life, and or taking the steps of saying, no, you know what, right, let me do something else. Let me try something for myself. I
personally use happiness as a way to measure my success in life, and who I should listen, what I should do, when I should change. So if what I'm doing is giving me genuine happiness, even though my parents want something else, for example, if my parents really want me to have kids because they've been asking it for the last 8 years that we've been married.
Oh, wow.
Yes. They have to understand that I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. There's nothing missing right now in my life, and I know they just want the best for me. And so they keep telling me, but you have no idea how happy you will be.
Yeah,
yes.
Right.
But right now, why can't you see that I'm already happy, that I don't need that? And when I want it, I will get it, I will fight for that. But then right now I'm actually happy, so I would just say that and also for parents that are watching this and they want the best for their kids, if you see your kids happy, why change that? Why get in the way?
Keep feeding that, right? Keep feeding that, or just so get out of the way most of the time.
Yeah, right? Because if you see your kid unhappy and you keep pushing, there's a reason why you're pushing. He is unhappy, so you want to help that person. But if the person is already happy, why get in the way? That's what I think.
That's so true. And if you do decide and when you have kids one day, when that may be, you'll be one heck of a parent.
Hopefully.
It'll be amazing.
We are now thinking about it finally, because for the longest time that was not even a thing in my mind, but right now, because I'm about to release my book, I feel like, okay, I reached certain milestones that make me feel confident that now I want a kid. Now I want that something else to be even happier and have someone that I can teach everything that we've learning for the last years.
Right. So it came back to timing, really touching base with yourself, understanding, where do I stand and where I feel? Am I happy? Will this decision add to it? Or maybe I have to let something go and maybe try on that new weight. Like, oh, that feels better. And then proceeding on with whatever that may feel like.
Because we all have our own milestones, right? And I had mine very clear. I was like, I don't want to become a parent if I don't have the time to dedicate to this kid. And in order to have the time, I need the resources. And so I need to hit,
goals, career goals or financial goals.
Right, financial and career goals and personal goals. I need to feel good about myself, confident about myself, so I can give my best self to this new person. I think that person deserves my and my husband's best self. So we need to reach that before we welcome him or her into the world.
Totally. Well, bring it back. Before this, your brand took off as the Fear Girl and Hello Fears. I mean, this is one element of you, and we're talking a lot about fears and stuff, but like, who was Michelle Poller before, this took off? Like, what got you up in the morning and introduce us to something a bit, a different side to you.
Okay, interesting. So I've always had a lot of confidence in myself. I was always an artist since I was little, and I loved everything I did. Me and Adam, we talk about this a lot, and it's all kinds, like painting. I love color, so just any expression that I could use a lot of color. Like
totally. It shows through your wardrobe as well. Like when you're on, like you.
Not today, but
low key. We're surprised. By the way, this podcast is a blessing because we were trying to lock this down for a while, and Michelle travels a whole bunch, which will come out in conversation. But just for traveling the world, public speaking, so like. Just trying to find this one day between you're here in town and leaving and me and schedules. Anyway, so this is low key, a little glimpse
you can see
in time.
Color in the background.
Totally.
I love expressing myself through color. So I'm a natural artist. And it's funny because my parents are doctors. Like my mom is a psychoanalyst. My dad is a heart surgeon.
Wow.
So they never understood what I did so well. So I had to constantly reward myself, like verbally, on how awesome the things I'm creating are. I'm like, so I'm like, I did this piece of painting and I'm like, it's so beautiful. Like, so I am
creative.
Yeah. You go, Michelle.
Yes, right. Oh God, because your parents, they don't process that the language of love. I mean, it's just off. They don't operate the same way.
Like, it's pretty. I'm like.
Oh, it's
awesome.
Yeah. That's so great.
Yeah, so I became good at that. So I was always very compassionate with myself and love myself since I was little, which I find a blessing because I know a lot of kids struggle with that.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
So much I think hurt and pain come from like not being like able to enjoy oneself and to love oneself.
Yes, and also that goes back to comparison. You're always comparing yourself, and that's something I think my mom did really well. She never allowed me to compare myself to anybody. Oh. Every time I would use that language, like, but she's prettier, she's funnier, she would be like, but you are you. And no one can be you. So that's special by itself. You don't have to be funnier. The amount of funny that you have with the amount of, all these things that you have, creativity, it's what make you who you are. So,
wow, that's amazing that she was able to bring you back to center and like catch you in those moments, because that could easily go down a deep, dark spiral.
And it all started because I needed glasses. When I was little and nobody else in my class had glasses. So I felt different. I didn't like it. Yeah, uncool. So she really had to put a lot of effort to make me have the confidence in myself, even though I needed the glasses. So I think it all started kind of there until I got it. And I was like, yeah, I'm cool because I have glasses and nobody else have,
flipping it on its head, switching it around.
Right. Yeah. So authenticity has always been a big part of me. But what changed, what the project, did in me is that now I'm more open to do things that before were not, like if they're not in my comfort zone, I would not even try them. Right. So now I'm more willing to go on adventures and do things that, even though they're not in my comfort zone and my instinct is to say no to those things, I give them a chance. Before, I would not even give them a chance. So I was still very joyful, very social person because that's who I am. It's part of my being. But if it's something outside of my comfort zone, I wouldn't do it. So I missed a lot of experiences. So for example, when I graduated, I never went like backpacking to Europe with my friends or took a year off or did anything on my own.
Oh, wow.
I was too afraid
to go out and do it.
Yeah.
Nice. But it seems like you're making a lot of work and making up all that travel now in your life. So, and you got Adam to share it with, which is really great. But tell us, we've been sort of circling around this project. You came to New York, and what's this? So, 100 Days of Fear, which I was safe to say launched, your career and what you're doing today. What inspired you to? I know you were going to design school, and what inspired you to focus on fear? How did you pick this topic for your project?
Well, so when I moved to New York, which was my dream to be here, I realized I was not really enjoying myself here because I was all the time trying to stay in my comfort zone. And New York by itself is outside of anybody else, anybody's comfort zone. It's just, it's a challenging city in every aspect. Yeah. And so I was so scared all the time that I was not able to enjoy myself here. And then that's when I realized, like, I have to start facing my fears now. This is time to do it. I have my husband that supports me I'm young enough. I still don't have kids, so I can take some risks.
Yeah.
So I moved here to go to do a master's in branding, so do a master program. And it was part of the program. So we had to choose one thing to do for 100 days in a row. That was the project, to do a 100-day project. Most of the people did things related to branding. And I thought this was a perfect opportunity for me to face 100 fears and do something about it. And also I decided to challenge myself to do it in the most professional way possible, so then I could use that to apply for a job.
Smart. Okay, there you go. That would be a segue. Wasn't the end goal. It was just a way to get a job within branding.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this is win-win. I'll become a braver person for me, for my husband, for my children in the future. And then at the same time, I can prove to really awesome companies in New York that I can create a social project and make it, big, make it relatable, make it fun, make it engaging, and all of those things. So they can then hire me to do projects for them.
Got it. Wow. And so when you launched off this 100 days project, when you launched a 100 days project, did you get any feedback from your professor, or from people in your class that, it wasn't a great idea, or were you already getting shut down before it began, or did you find support around the idea?
Well, first of all, I found a lot of support from my classmates because they could see how fearful of a person I was. Oh, wow. And they wanted they were like, please, Michelle, please go face your fear. So every time I found an excuse not to do that, and maybe I was like, no, let's try 100 restaurants better. They would be like, no, you're going with the fears. So that was good to have that support and my husband's support. But then the professor of the class, she was worried because she was like, this is a lot. Like, it will take a lot of your time to face one fear a day, record a video, edit a video, upload that to YouTube, distribute that in all your platforms. Like, that's a lot of work. Like, she was not really convinced that I should do that. And after the first week, she saw me so, like, I was not sleeping because I had no time.
You were just so busy with it.
I was literally working full time in advertising. I was going to my master's in branding at night, and then I was facing a fear and doing a video and all of it once a day.
The New York hustle was strong with you.
Yes. Yeah. And she was worried when she saw me. She's like, Michelle, I'm worried. You haven't slept in a whole week. I'm like, I'm so happy. I'm the happiest I've ever been. Like, wow. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Like, it's sort of the opposite. You may think like, okay, facing fears will drain you. It'll take you away. It'll deplete you, put you down, put you in a scary or bad mood. And here it was, you're facing fears and you were just getting more energized by every time you stepped into it. Every
time you face a fear, you realize it was not as bad as you thought. And you're like, I can do that again. And so you want to challenge yourself a little bit more. And it's like, heroin or something that you want more.
It's a drug. It becomes like a drug. Like, self-betterment becomes an addiction in a healthy way. I did actually go and come across your first video that you did upload. And sitting here in front of me and talking with you, like, it was light years of a different person from like the person who was like standing by the wall in front of the camera, like, hey, this is my first day launching this project, and today is my challenge is taking on this project. Like, it's you've come such a long way in seemingly a very short amount of time. It's only been a couple of years, 4 years now.
It will be 5 years.
5 years.
April.
5 years, and which is quite incredible to see, like, the kind of person that you built and the life that you built around it, which is quite amazing. You have some really fun fears that have been captured on video, from skydiving, from trying different types of foods and interacting with spiders and the walking around in your pajamas and whatnot. Is there any fear? Well, first question is it from the video aspect? Are there any favorite fear that you did record that you loved?
Dancing in the middle of Times Square. I think that's one of the favorites for everybody. It's just such a fun video. And at the same time, it was a big lesson for me because I was like, sure, I can go dance in Times Square, I guess. And then it was, of course, intimidating at the beginning because I was the only one listening to the music. I put my earphones. I started dancing, very self-aware of what people might be thinking of me. But it's New York. It's okay. Yeah. But then little by little, I started to get really into the mood and to the music. And then people started joining me. And then there were a lot of people dancing with me all over, and it became a dance party in the middle of Times Square.
Wow.
And then at the end of the video, I approached Adam because he was there recording it, and I'm like, this is what living life to the fullest feels like. I literally experienced it for the first time in my life. And so I try to identify what about it, what happened that gave me that experience, right? Living life to fullest. Like, it sounds good, but you feel like it's not real. Like, I don't know. I heard it in songs and whatever, but it's like,
Sure. More Republic.
Yeah. And then what I realized is that it only happens when you do the things you love like no one's watching. Because that was the challenge, to dance like no one's watching. And so I had to picture myself at home doing all these moves. And when I was able to forget that people were there watching, judging, that's when I started to enjoy the moment to the fullest. So what I learned is that whatever you like to do, if you do it like no one's watching, then you'll experience that living life to a fullest moment.
Enjoy. And eventually perhaps people will start watching, but through a supportive way. But it also goes back to the idea of like how much we do things because people are watching, we feel like they're watching, and then that just dictates, so letting go of those fears. And most people aren't even watching, they're going about their own lives and in their own heads. And second, if someone has the time and the capacity to watch and to judge and to then it's like, do I really want to live my life from someone who is perhaps going through their own struggles or their own judgmental ideas? Like, why would that even bother me? But of course, the mind could play tricks on ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that it's so fascinating how personal fear is, because when people look at the list of things I did, some of the ones that it was not a big deal for me, they are like, I would never in my life. Like the other day, I did an interview with Rachael Hollis.
Amazing.
And, and she was like, tell me some of the fears. Like, what was a fun one? And I'm like, oh, fun was crashing a wedding. And she's like, I would never in my entire life. Like, I'd rather, do the worst one that you did. Like,
she couldn't even fathom doing that.
Instead of crashing a wedding. And I'm like, what? To me, that was like a no-brainer. Like, oh, that sounds fun. Let's crash a wedding. And it was really fun. She was like, no, and it's so relative. Like, for her, it comes with her, I don't know, her upbringing. Something about it made her so fearful of that.
Right. Did you guys delve into that? She held the interview. Did she share with you why?
Yeah. She said that she can't live with herself knowing that she did something wrong, something that is not allowed, something that may or may not hurt other people, like, getting into someone else's wedding, you don't know how they will react. So she can't do that. And I grew up crashing a lot of weddings in Venezuela. Yeah.
Girls
when
gotta
I was
eat,
little.
you gotta.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, that's what I did every Saturday. But it was very different experience to do it in New York, where that is not expected, you know?
For sure. That is pretty amazing. I mean, I used to crash weddings when I was studying abroad. There was like this wedding hall down the road, and like the food sucked. It was terrible in the high school that I was going to. It was boarding school, and it was terrible. So we would literally maybe 3-4 times in a week, we would actually go, and we would work for our meal though. Because we would go out and dance, and we were like the attire. We knew what the theme was. We would put on a suit. We would break it down. We would time it right so the dancing would begin. We'd come in, we'd break it down, bring the energy. People were like, what? Oh, we get related to the broom. Oh, related to the bride. It was we're distant cousins, and then we're hanging around, and we have dinner, which was like. Like we were giving and taking. It was a good deal. So
we should do that together. I think that we should.
We would rock it out.
I should have called you.
Hey, are you kidding me? You gotta let me know. Yeah, next time you face any fears, let me know. Is there a fear that you didn't record that you did enjoy or was fearful, or like a story around that?
Well, so there were some fears that were really hard to capture in video that I still enjoy, and it was hard. It was just sad that I couldn't put all of them in video. And also, and any fear that I wanted to face, I had to think video first, right? But some I couldn't capture. For example, I wanted to do that when you go to the hand reading or tarot or
the psychic readers.
I wanted to do that because I never did it in my life before. I was terrified of whatever they could tell me.
Me too. I feel like, but I mean, is it fear? Because for me, I was just so brought up in like that. It's like whatever they say may become true, or is superstition fear?
Superstition, fear, definitely fear, right?
It is fear, right?
Yeah, you don't know if they will tell you someone will die, and then it even happened to my parents. One day, this patient, like my dad, his
Horse
patient was telling her like, your wife will die this year, and he never said anything, and for the whole year he waited for my mom to die, and it never happened. That's horrible.
That's terrible. Oh my gosh. Talk about living in fear. That's insane.
So they told me that, and I was like, I'm never going to one of those people. But in order to face my 100 fears, I had to get creative.
You had to do it. You got to get creative.
I went for it. And so she didn't allow me to record the conversation. Oh. So I shared it over like writing, and I blogged about it. But it was sad because it was a really good conversation, and it was not scary at all. It was the opposite of scary. It was empowering.
Empowering. Did whatever you guys discussed about, did things come to true? Did it come to fruition?
Well, it's not like this will happen.
Okay.
It was more about questioning and letting me know things about my actual life. Like, for example, she said, did someone close to you died recently? And I was like, no. It's starting really bad. Talking about death. Fear. No. Abort. Yeah. Bye. Yeah. And they left. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, okay. So she, and I said, no, why? And she said, because you have an angel, like, taking care of you. And I know that's true. I know, like, I've always felt like there's someone making sure I'm all right, nothing happens to me, so just she saying that made me feel good. Like, wow. Oh, that's good. I don't know who it is, but thank you, angel.
Someone's got my back.
Yeah, so things like that. But
cool.
and it was more about my personality. Like, you seem more of this kind of person. Be careful because you might get easily, affected by whatever. Things like that. But it was not bad at all. It was more like going to therapy.
Yeah. Wow. Got it. Cool. Amazing. And when day 40 came about, that's when media caught on and things blew up. Did it play out the way that you thought it would? Like, when you started day one, it was, so I guess I can answer my own questions now. It didn't play out because initially you thought you just use a segue in to get a good job and say, hey guys, this is what I did. So when day 40 came about, bring me to that day of like when media picked it up and things started to blow up. How did you process that all?
Yeah, so that's I could do a whole podcast on going viral.
Right. So
and how that's actually a whole chapter in my book, just that. But let me think. So first of all, it's something I wanted to happen. I even found a little paper with my like New Year's resolution and wishes for that year. And my wish was to go viral with my 100-day project. It was not even, I didn't know it was going to be about fear when I wrote that. I thought it was going to be about branding or design or something. I didn't know. I was just like, I'm going to do something so awesome that people will pick up on it and they will love it. Yes. So that was my intention. So when it went viral, it kind of felt like I knew it was going to happen. Wow. It was still pretty mind-blowing and
it's actually happening.
Yeah.
But how specific? I mean, that's amazing. Like, you actually wrote down one of your goals was like, it was very specific. Like, this project will go viral. It wasn't just like, oh, I want to go viral, or like, I want this to go well. Like, and I think there's, a lot of like self-development, mentors and people talk about it all the time, like goal setting and writing down and and it's cool to see that play out, because I really believe in energy and just like things, actualization, laws of attraction, whatever you may think, how you want to word it. So it's really amazing to see that you wrote it down and then it actually played out as it did.
Yeah, and actually I realized I wrote it down like the next year. Because every year I just write those things, put it in a box, and then I open it again a year later. So when I open it up and I saw that what I wrote happened, like became a reality, it was pretty mind blowing at that point. Because I was like, I predicted this, like, but I forgot that I wrote about it. It's in your head, but the fact that I wrote it is pretty cool. I have that paper where I wrote it, so it happened. It was crazy, and the most important thing that I did there was to ride that wave in a way that it could change my life and not just leave it there. Because a lot of people might go viral and they can be in so many websites and then get over it and then continue with their lives. And I was like, this is where my life changes, and I'm going to make sure that happens. So I took advantage of this moment to reach out to people, to transform my career and everything. So
that was that was a massive step because of pivoting and like you said, riding the wave, not letting it just die out. Like, go do the interviews and that's it. Do you feel like your background in marketing design helped you create and be ready for this opportunity? Or like, how did you have the know-how and realize like, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to like build this new life for myself?
So I think you're never ready for it, but yes, you have to in that moment, tap into all your skills. And then one of my skills is to make connections and meet new people. So I was like, who can help me with this? So I got in contact with this virality expert. Her name is Karen X. Cheng. She used to work for Microsoft. She went viral with her video quitting Microsoft, and then she decided to understand what virality is all about and how to replicate it. So she started replicating viral videos, and to me that was impressive. And so we had a call, and I'm like, hey, I'm viral, what should I do? Wow. And she gave me really good advice. She said, you have to understand why your project went viral. What about it? Are people so, hooked up, like they love it so much that they're picking up on your project, and then turn that into a business? She's like, that's what I did. And now my whole business is to do viral videos for brands. So what do you want to do in a year? Because no one will remember your name in a year. You won't be in the news. So enjoy it while it lasts, but that will fade away for sure. Huge. And so turn that into a business. So I was like, I had that in my mind. What is it? I had to get to the root of it. So I was like, facing my own fears is relatable. People feel inspired to face their own fears just by watching me face my fears. So how can I turn this into a business? And then that's how the speaking business started. That's how I turned it around. That's
incredible. So, I mean, and you've always, I mean, it is amazing. When we met over 3 years ago, it was, things were launching off. You were in the motion, but yet you were still like, hey, I want to create this, go even bigger with your speaking career. And now fast forward these years, and it's amazing to follow you and to see what you're up to, because you're like, just besides all the incredible brands that you've spoken with, like Facebook, Microsoft, Wix, whatever, around the world, you're also like, you hit up so many incredible, like the schools and talking to teenagers and having a major impact on that demographic and lifestyle. So like it's just amazing to see people grow and like have those goals and those ideas and like visions for themselves, and then to see it play out through hard work, through dedication, through hustle, through passion. So I mean, that is amazing, and you have been an inspiration for me for all this time. So it's really, and I'm just mentioning, I'm grateful for you to have this conversation with me. So it's amazing in that sense. You're on all the social media platforms, and your project went viral. What's interesting though is that you have a very strong community of people. You have a major people contributing on your website and articles, and always pumping out video and content. However, sometimes it doesn't necessarily reflect necessarily in views. So I guess it's two questions. One is, have you been affected by views? I know for myself, like initially when I went viral a few times, and I didn't see this shifting, but like I sort of became addicted to the view count, and then like, okay, if videos didn't go as well, then like it would bring me down, and then eventually through work and reflection, I realized how I can't be affected by the outcome. I just have to put the effort in. So did you ever go through that yourself when after the virality slowed down? Was there a period of time that you got maybe sad, or you went through something like, oh my gosh, why isn't this working anymore?
That's a great question, and the answer is it's so hard to face that reality of I'm not viral anymore. So my videos went from every video having at least 30,000 views to doing my Dear Younger Self videos, and it was hard to get to 1,000 views.
Right.
And that was painful, because it's like, okay, clearly people want to see me in action. Just go face a fear, take a risk, because it's exciting, more exciting than me in my couch speaking to a camera about things that I reflect on. But then what I started doing, and this is more recently, is I started measuring my engagement in terms of impact instead of numbers. So I used to be very focused on growing my numbers, like growing my following, growing my likes and my comments and this and that. And now I care more about growing the impact. So even if I have a few comments, but people saying things like, I needed to hear this today, or this comment completely shifted the way my week go, or I found a new job because of this, or my boss gave me a raise. Wow. Those things, if I just have 3 of those, instead of 1,000 comments, that's worth for me way more. So I'm not focused anymore on numbers, and that helps a lot with my mental health.
Totally.
Right?
Oh man, I totally relate to that and vibe with that for sure. Because ultimately that's ultimately what we want to do. What I want to do as well is to impact people's lives. But that illusion of the number game can, because people can be addicted. I always looked at people, I never got them. Like, oh, they could be addicted to getting money, right? Numbers. They wanted a lot more money. I never got that. But now in hindsight, I'm like, I had the same exact thing. It wasn't necessarily green, but it was just it was digital. It was building just more and more virality, more and more, numbers, which not necessarily does always bring back to a community.
Yeah.
Your video could go, you can go viral, but not necessarily where anybody watch your next video or connect with your next message. But
yeah, it's like you could have millions of views on a Facebook video. You don't know who they are.
Totally.
I have way less on my Instagram, but I know them.
Yes.
I interact with them through DM. I know their little photo, their handle, their story. And it's fascinating because now when I not normally do like events for my community, it's all online, and then my events are for companies that are hiring me. So I just go, nobody knows who I am, I speak, then everybody knows who I am, then they become part of my community. But a lot of people, they've been following me for 4 years and they've never met me in person. It's their dream. So we started doing more events for the community, mostly when we travel to a country where we know we have followers. So we were just in Chile and Argentina, and we did 2 events there.
Wow.
And I was so surprised because first we did Argentina. We found a place for 200 people. And I was like, yeah, let's try to sell a few tickets for that. Okay, in one day, sold out.
Wow.
200 in Argentina, place I've never been, and
that's amazing.
That was
and that's real. That's like, it's not just like a view on, these are people showing up, paying money to see you, meet you, and experience your energy.
And then we called the place and we're like, okay, we're sold out. Can we put more chairs? Like, we have more people that need a ticket. And then they're like, we can put 50 more chairs. We sold those in half an hour. So
oh my gosh,
the event was, completely sold out the first day. And for the next weeks before the event happened, I received so many DMs of people saying, I can't believe I'm going to miss it. Please do another one. And then for Chile, I was like, okay, I'll do an event a little bit bigger. 320 people. First day, sold out.
Unbelievable.
So many people couldn't come.
That's incredible.
It's incredible. And it's like, these people are real. They're not only on my iPhone.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And they make you feel so good, and I want to make them feel so good. It's such a special event. It's not like the rest of the events that I do. And for example, one cool thing that we did, me and Adam, because I haven't said this here, but I work together with my husband.
Yes.
He's my manager.
As you're speaking this throughout the whole time, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I see Adam behind the camera just smiling. There he is. He's
right there.
He's right there smiling, just taking it all in. Like, he's incredible. But please keep praising Adam, because
so we do this together, and people are not only excited to see me, but also excited to see him because they follow him also, and he has a lot of great content about personal finances in Spanish. So we go do these events, and my favorite part is that we decided to greet people in the door. So imagine,
so personal.
Exactly. So instead of hiding, and even the guy from the place was like, Michelle, here's your little room. You can hide here until everybody's in there. And then you come out, do your thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to be in that little room. I want to be with all the people that are here to see me. So we went to the entrance, and then after they scan their ticket, they would walk towards the door, and the first thing they would see is me and Adam with our open arms, like, hi. And
thanks for coming.
No, they were like freaking out. They're like, oh, you're here, you're real. And they hugged us, they took selfies. So it was like a great way to welcome them. It's just like someone's going into your home. Right. Why would you hide?
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. That's so on brand, but also so you. Like, it's so incredible talking about authenticity, like how you really have, like, your brand and everything that you've built and you show up for in life is really how you show up and like who you are. And for that to spill over in both parts of your life is really uncommon, and especially in this digital age. So it makes so much sense, and yet like aha moment, because that's what I'm all used to. You go to an event, someone comes out they come, and now give it up for them. They come on stage, everybody claps, but like, even something as simple as that is it's a game changer.
Yeah, and also one of the fears that I now have is fear of success, which is something I never experienced, and I was like, that's bullshit. Like, well, how can you be afraid of having success?
I mean, first of all, a success. I mean, you launched a book. You're a public speaker. You've spoken in front of hundreds of thousands of people. What success are you afraid of right now?
Well, so I can put together 300 to 500 people in Argentina or Chile or some other places in the world where I have following, but I know that the next step, like for example, looking at Rachel Hollis, right? She can put together 5,000 people in one city.
Now your mom says, don't compare.
No. So it's not about comparison, but it's like knowing what is the best that can happen. Like, what if that happens? And the fear is, because there is fear to that, is that I will lose touch with the 300 people that I am in contact with, because because it's still small, my success compared with what it can be. I get to interact with people on the day-to-day. I answer 100% of my DMs on Instagram. I want to give my best to everybody that follows me. And then when you blow up, then it's really hard. You can't do that anymore. So that I will miss that part if it happens.
Yes.
You never know.
But there's no doubt showing the graph of your career and your way of being. It will happen and hopefully rightfully so, because you do put a lot of work into it, you and Adam as a team, and your message is so important to be listened to and to be lived by. So, but now facing, let's say, this new fear, right? This new fear of success and whatnot. How do you go about tackling that now? And is it easier in a way because you have all this history and all this experience tackling fears?
So I trust a lot in myself and my ability to handle whatever comes at me after everything we've been through. And I trust more than myself. I trust that we can do it together, that we need both of us in order to figure out things and know how to choose on what to do, what to, leave aside, because there's so many options there that's a challenge by itself. But I am afraid, but at the same time, very hopeful, very confident, and very excited for the future.
Amazing. Before we do head off into hearing a bit more about your future, and I want to hear more about your book as well, which has been sitting here on the table throughout this whole interview. And for those who are at home, you could actually look at it. Beautiful. I love the cover. And you can lift it up there. Yeah, there it is. Voila. It's standing now up, right? So the wide shot is capturing the beautiful cover. And it's been really cool because what I've noticed through your brand is you're so involved with your community. You're always asking them questions. With this book, you were asking them their advice, getting people in your community to design the covers, sharing those cover designs as well. And like for me, I always want things to be perfect. Like I want to just share it and like it's ready and now here it is and bada boom. And what's so nice about your process is that, it's mistakes and there's, okay, this could be better, and hearing feedback and sharing and really involves the people in your community, which I'm just taking notes and learning from myself. And I think it's so incredible to see that. And it's cool to see the cover that you went ahead with, which is amazing. So kudos to that. I just want to touch base on, because I love something that you talk about in your talks, and I'm sure you've talked about it in your book, but here we are right now in the present. So let's milk it. The opposite of fear is not failure, but
comfort.
But comfort.
Yeah. So when you ask me about who was I before the project, before becoming the person I am before, I was a comfortable person. I was the person seeking comfort, because that's what I was taught to seek, find a husband, find a good job, graduate from a good school. All those things lead you to comfort. And so I was like, oh, that's where happiness is, in comfort. But then when I realized I was not happy, that's when it hit me. Happiness is not comfort, it's the opposite. Like your happiness is probably outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. And so that is the opposite of success, because every time we choose comfort, we're farther and farther away from reaching our goals.
So what are maybe three ways, there's 3 tips, that someone who is at home listening or watching this can take away and start their process and maybe finding their fears, like what am I truly fearful about, and taking action and conquering those fears?
So first, it's really important that you determine what is your own definition of success. That can be a challenge on itself. We're so driven by other people's definition of success that we stop questioning what is our definition. Maybe your definition is to be a stay-at-home dad. and you would be fine with that. You would be happy with that, even though society thinks that, it's wrong. Then it's a matter of that, because for some, I have a very typical definition of success: more exposure, more followers, more money, that. And I've been achieving that, and it's been making me happy. But for example, my husband on the other side, he's been realizing that he doesn't want followers. Like, he has a lot of followers, but he's like, maybe that's not what I want. Maybe he's questioning the typical definition of success, and that gave me a lot of perspective. And now I understand that we're not all wired the same way, and that once you understand what is your definition of success, then you would be more aligned with your goals. And so that is the first step. And also, for example, in my case, definition of success, to having a family, younger in life, that was not fitting my own definition, so
recognizing that and taking actions of like, okay, what is it that does feed me that I want right now?
So that's the first one. Just understanding that. Then I would say the idea of, instead of comparing yourself to people around you, try to contrast. I think that can lead you to becoming your most authentic self, because authenticity is one of the most valuable things in this world today. People are craving authenticity, people that are more real, more themselves. So it's a matter of contrasting instead of comparing. That would be my second advice. And to do that, because this is what the difference between these two words. When you compare yourself, you're looking outside and trying to identify everything that you're missing. So you look at someone and you're like, I should be funnier like Mayor. I should be, smarter like this other guy. I should be, and you start.
You're focusing on the things that are missing in your life, or what you're less or not good at.
Exactly, things you don't have. But when you want to contrast, the only way to do it is by looking inside. There's no way to contrast if you don't look inside. And then you need the courage to bring the inside out, even if it's not perfect. For example, my Latin culture gives me a lot of things. One of those is my accent. And instead of feeling bad that I can't talk like an American, I have to feel good about it, that I'm different because of it. And that it means that I have 2 languages at least. So that's pretty valuable.
It's incredible. And you by default, you actually, not by hard work, you have another huge community and access to people that an English speaker will only have access to.
Right.
So that's amazing. And by the way, went down the Michelle Pola rabbit hole before this poll, just to brush myself up on your history. Your earlier interviews compared to now, your English has improved tremendously. I mean, you still have the accent, but it's like you're on it. You're on it, which is really cool to see. Practice. Yeah. I mean, you're a speaker professionally.
And then also, for example, I start all my talks, my presentations, dancing reggaeton, which is a way to embrace, my Latin culture. Is my immediate way of telling people I'm different. That it all comes through contrasting. Everything that you can do that is just, from you to the world, instead of, I picked all these things from other people and I put it into my work. Then that has a lot of value. And the third thing that I would suggest people to do if they want to start facing their fears and achieve their own goals would be to think of the best case scenario instead of the worst case scenario. Because our mind immediately, that's natural. We immediately go to what's the worst that could happen. You don't need to ask yourself that question in order to go there. Your mind will go there. Don't worry. You will consider it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you can train your mind to think about the best that can happen. So that is the question that I try to ask myself before doing anything that is scary. So before going on stage, when I'm terrified, I ask myself, wait, what's the best that can happen? And then I'm like, okay, what if it goes well? What if the audience react positively to it? What if they do laugh at my jokes? What if I do remember the entire thing? So just considering the best case scenarios can trigger your brain to take action in a much more positive way. And it's what, will
propel you to take that action.
Push you to do it. Because if you're only thinking, this will go really bad, this audience will hate me, I will forget half of it. If you go with that mindset, probably will happen. That's what you're showing, So it's all about asking yourself, what's the best that can happen?
So what's the best that can happen now moving forward in the next 2020 for Michelle?
So
for Hello Fears.
I think it's hard to dream big also. It's, I think, harder to dream big than to not dream at all. Yeah. Because not dreaming is going back to your comfort, and dreaming big is definitely outside of anybody's comfort zone, because you're putting out there your desires, and that is scary because it may not happen. So I'm going to do the scary thing, and I'm going to put my desires out into the world, because I also heard that if you don't put your desires out, no one will know about it, and no one will help you make those dreams a reality.
Yes.
So those people that keep their wishes to themselves, you're probably very far from achieving those. Right.
You got to put it out there. You got to maybe get vulnerable with it, having the fear of perhaps of not working out or going a different way, and allowing people in a way, asking for help. Like, hey, this is what I want to do. And like, can we make this happen? Yeah.
So the best that can happen for me, 2020, would be in May 5th, this book goes out into the world. Hello Fears is the name of the book. If you want to find it, it's already on Amazon. And my dream now is to get 10,000 pre-orders by the first week, starting today. We already have 1,000, so we're only 9,000 books away.
Amazing.
Not bad.
Okay, all right.
And then this book making a huge impact. I don't know, having hundreds of thousands of sales in the first couple of years. That would be the best that could happen. Of course, 1 million sales wouldn't hurt, but
but of course, just want the impact to be, bigger and impact.
Yes.
We're gonna have it in different languages as well, or just English for now?
First, it will be released in English, but hopefully it will come out in different languages.
With the success of the book, sure.
Yeah, with the success of it, and in Audible and all of that. But I'm very, very proud of it. It looks amazing. Every page is like a piece of art.
Oh, absolutely. And I have the book in my hands right now. I'm holding it, and as those who are watching can see it, but it's definitely, it oozes your creative branding and touch. I always enjoyed it. I always loved from the get-go, like the typography that you use, and the animation that you use, and the cartoons that you use. It's always just very light, very fun, and hits the point. Even on your website, you have like this one little bit of the 100 courageous things one can do.
Yes.
And I went through them the other night, and I loved and resonated to each and every one. I also loved just little illustrations that you have that are to it. So anyways, bringing it back to the book, it feels like it's an encyclopedia, which is not to scare you off, because it's oozing with lots and lots of insight and information and wisdom. Mm-hmm. And I personally, 1001, I plan to purchase one of these books as well. So
yes.
And for all those who are listening, just from listening from this podcast and doing a little research on your own on Michelle, you'll see how much she has to share and how much she's faced, and she lives it. Just not just preaching about it, but she actually you tackle it every single day, which is quite amazing. Yeah. So thank you very much, Michelle, for having me here, and for sharing your message, your time. Big shout out to Adam, who is of course part of the Hello Fears team, and just a good friend as well. I really appreciate you. And wishing lots of success and only love and positivity and continuous growth in all that you do.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. I always enjoy conversations with you. Please, let's keep facing fears together and doing more of this awesome conversations. So
amazing. And for those who want to follow you and find you, where can they find you? So
Hello Fears everywhere. YouTube, Instagram. Instagram is where I live and breathe. Like, that's where I actually live. That's my home.
That's right. It's definitely not this apartment.
No, this is just props. So anywhere, Hello Fears, hellofears.com. And if you want to find out more about my speaking, go to michellepolar.com, and you can watch my demo reel, and let's be in contact.
All right. Thank you again, Michelle.
Thanks.